Mike Vance, a distinguished name in speaking and communicating. Mike Vance generates excitement between himself and his audiences. His fast-paced style, sprinkled with good-natured humor, make him one of the most stimulating speakers and sought-after teachers. He brings the future into the present by making people aware of what is possible through the use of creative thought. His lectures are an experience in which there is discovery, intimacy, pathos, humor, and resolution. Mike's years of experience, original ideas, and variety of speech topics are the reasons he was named by USA Today as one of the top 5 most requested speakers.
Those of you that don't know me, sometimes I get enthusiastic when I talk, but I want you to know that my enthusiasm never in any way means that I think that I have all the answers. I don't think that. I don't know. I really don't like people who think they have all the answers. I find that most of the people who think that they have all the answers usually have none of the answers. I talk all day, every day, and almost every night, and I often disagree with myself. I really don't believe in magic formulas either. If you try these 2 or 3 things tonight, tomorrow you'll be different. I don't know. I've tried most of those things. I think that life is a process that we either do them from beginning to end or we don't do it, and I agree with Mr. Shapiro. You can't put it in any quick formulas. What most of us do, we create desire in others to want what we got, then we give it to the people we give it to, lose it, don't know how to get it back, and they hate the people that gave it to them, because motivation is a byproduct of meaningful encounters with the exigencies of life. And if one seeks to be motivated per se, it is axiomatic that it is demotivational rather than motivational. Then the Japanese take over another business. So
Mike began speaking and communicating during his high school years with a radio talk show called Teen Talk, which made him a pioneer broadcaster at an early age. He then continued his career in communications by producing and directing his own television talk show called Men at the Top in California. Mike Vance worked for 7 years in the Disney organization. He was in charge of idea and people development for Walt Disney Productions, Disneyland, and Walt Disney World. He was also Dean of Disney University, considered one of the world's most outstanding training centers. Walt Disney said, "Mike is one of the most creative guys I've met. He'll take you down new roads, no matter how many you've been down before." Mike was a student of the late Frank Lloyd Wright, who influenced his thoughts about design. He also worked with Buckminster Fuller, inventor of the geodesic dome. Mike's environmental design firm, Vance Design, is well known for developing unusual and unique creative environments
through the application of 3 major premises. Here are the major premises. Number 1, there are very few inferior people anywhere in the world, but we have lots of inferior environments. By the way, that is Frank Lloyd Wright. Premise number 2, people don't cause problems because they want to, but because they lack skills to succeed. Give them skills and never criticize people. Walt Disney. Premise number 3, you never change things by fighting. You change things by making it obsolete through superior methodology. Buckminster Fuller.
Those who come to be motivated find that Mike goes a step beyond by assuming them to be already motivated. He makes his audiences excited to be alive and part of what he refers to as a universe filled with integrity in which man is continuously discovering general principles. His dynamic style hits home hard with a wealth of information geared at how to get things done and accomplished in the home or business. Mike Vance translates his experiences into easy, workable techniques for improving performance.
And it's a concept some of you have probably heard. I want to show you what we did with it. We referred to it as the 4 levels of learning. And we show how it relates to creativity. If you think it's the universe that's creative, that creativity is the making of the new and the rearranging of the old in a new way, that the opposite of creativity is what we refer to as the tyranny of oughtedness. Do anything because you ought to, rather than because you want to. When you are caught in the tyranny of oughtedness, you don't want to get out of bed in the morning because you know it'll be like it was yesterday, and you prognosticate it'll be that way tomorrow. And then the song goes out of life. You don't even like Dr. Westheimer. And one of the things, well, that's the end if you don't like her. But these 4 levels of learning, the bottom level, I'll show you how it relates to creativity, is referred to as unconscious incompetence. Unconscious incompetence means that you're ignorant, but you don't know it. It's where Tip O'Neill is located down here. Well, now wait a minute. That's not a very Jewish Christian thing to say. I think Tip is actually at the second level. He's at the level of conscious incompetence. I think he knows. Well, as a matter of fact, if you take a look at that smile, he knows. There's no doubt in my mind. Now, I have to tell you something. I said to Vanessa, Vanessa, please understand though, honey, I do not mean, when I'm talking about ignorance, please understand that I am not saying stupid. That there's a lot of ignorance in the world, but there is very little stupidity. And I said, one of the most important things to understand about creativity, and certainly one of the most important things to understand about the nature of the universe, is that we have much ignorance but very little stupidity. And one of the main things, if you wish to have high-level creativity with any environment, is that you should never talk down to anyone or condescend to anyone or ever modify your language just because you're dealing with someone that you think may not understand you. That is how people remain ignorant, and how the creativity that is within the universe and operating general principles of integrity do not get into action. By the way, every now and then I'll say something to a major point. That means it's more worth listening to than the other stuff I'm talking about, because you can't listen to everything. This is a major point. Never let somebody else do your talking. And if you're a manager or a leader, never do somebody else's talking for them. It is one of the keys to understanding and having high-level creativity, since it comes through people. You never want to do someone else's talking. I said, no, you go tell him. He said, I can't. I couldn't talk. I said, I understand you. That leads to third level of learning, referred to as conscious competence, where we do what it is that we do so well that we do it automatically and don't even have to think about it. And most people tend to go here very fast. The top level of learning is called unconscious competence, where you do what you do so well that you do it automatically. One of the things that I think Walt understood more than anything was what we call the red zone. The red zone is that period between when you do what you do so well that you do it automatically, when you are too good at what you do, when you are too excellent in your task achievement. See, you won't find anywhere in management literature, you won't find anywhere in books, people really talking about one of the most fundamentally, most difficult things about creativity in the world is that the minute that people think they're good and got it made and people write about them in books is when they're set up to no longer be creative and they become most vulnerable. In a relationship, when you are at the peak of a relationship between a man and a woman, as a nation, when you are magnificent and looked to after a great world war, when they look to you and say you're one of the greatest nations in the world, is when you're the most vulnerable. When you are, if you're an athlete, when you are the best is when you're the most vulnerable, but nobody ever tells you that. So we refer to the red zone as when you start doing what you do so well, you do it automatically, you don't have to think about it, and what happens is you lose the competitive edge.
Mike's content topics are tailored and customized to fit a specific meeting theme or convention program. Background information is gathered for blending and personalizing Mike's concepts with audiences' expectations. His vast product line, used by individuals and organizations around the world, give people the tools and resources for implementing theory into action. His seminars and workshops are attended by those who want hands-on how-to techniques to begin using. His consulting services offer clients creative solutions to programs, products, and projects.
Leadership is the ability to establish standards and manage a creative climate where people are self-motivated toward the mastery of long-term goals in a participatory environment of mutual respect compatible with personal values. That is the emerging leadership paradigm and will be what starts to drive most of the things that are going on. The thing that you have to do in an environment is never to sanction incompetence. One of the things that we have in an entire universe and everywhere we go is too much incompetence. And if you have people who ignore incompetence, walk away from it, you have more. I was in a hotel with an H in its title recently. I put in a wake-up call at 6:30 and said, could you wake me up at 6:30? The person said, we have too many people waking up at 6:30. This is a true story. I said, when would you like me to wake up?
They said, how about 6:45? I thought, well, okay, I'll be easy. You know when they called me? 6:30. I said, I'm not waking up. You take two children in a resource-rich environment. I've done this so many times with my own children. Take a couple 4-year-olds, sit out under a tree a dark night and gather some lightning bugs in a jar. Have you ever done that? And you got to put holes in it, though, or the lightning bugs will die. The same in building a staff. Always put holes in the lid or unscrew it so they don't, they cough in there. And you say to your staff, be creative in there as you screw the lid down. That won't work. You have to loosen the lid. I remember doing this with my own children, and we gathered some fireflies and we put a little juice on our finger and put them in the jar, and then went and got out of our trunk a medical field microscope which has a light in it, and I taught the 4-year-olds how to make a slide, put some glycerin on and a little drop and put the cover. It was so magnificent to watch this little eye look down through and see the primitive structure of what makes the firefly light. And then I showed them this, how we made a product out of it. And you all know this one. And I started it by bending it. And the minute that I bent this and they saw it, the most fascinating thing happened was they made what we call in science the quantum leap. They made the connection. They saw that it was the universe, after all it was created, that they could do that. I have to tell you something funny. My children and I down at Siesta Key several summers ago cut the ends off of this and put the stuff all over our bodies except our heads and ran down the beach at midnight. Unbelievable. We converted about 10 Southern Baptists in 15 minutes. You all know, we know how. See, the challenge that's before us today, when you look at these things, we all know how to do it. We also know we have the resources, that we live in a universe full of resources. The challenge is not, do we know how? We do. You know what I'm going to say, don't you? That's not the challenge. This is the challenge. When? When are you and I going to do what we know is possible? Thank you.
Audiences all over the world invite Mike Vance to share his creativity, new thinking, and fresh ideas.